What is up, everyone? Welcome to the L2R2 PlayStation Podcast, the show where we break down the PlayStation news of the week. My name is Fonzie. I'm joined by my co-host, Indie Game Dev, and my UK bruv from another mum, Callum Monroe. Callum, it's been a while. How you been?
Yeah, good. Very busy. I'm actually quite glad because the sun was just peering through and burning my face, but it seems to have dropped below the threshold now. So I'm safe from its deadly rays. And yeah, it's nice to sort of be back and talking about some games and things like that. But yeah, just been a very busy time in my life because I'm going through a few moves and everything like that. But yeah, just cracking on and trying to stay away from COVID and all of that stuff. But I get my second jab on Monday, which is exciting.
Ooh.
So that'll be me completely invincible to everything from then.
Yeah.
I'll have full 5G signal wherever I go, and so yeah, that's exciting.
I keep seeing that meme online too of the 5G, and I was like, it took me a little while to get it. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that was part of the fear originally, or like the conspiracy
Yeah,
originally. Uh,
yeah,
I got my first shot last Saturday too, so I'm halfway
nice.
there.
Congrats. Did you have any strange effects afterwards?
No, nothing crazy. I didn't get sick or anything or feel any, weird symptoms. My arm hurt. That was the extent of it. Like the next day, I felt like somebody drop kicked me in my arm, but it was fine.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
survived.
I was the same. Just the night of the jab, my arm was honestly like just so much pain. Like it really hurt to even lie on it. And I'm one of those people who I like to lie on sleep on my side, but I have to be able to switch,
Yep.
sides whenever I need to. And I think when you can't lie on one side, it makes you want to lie on it even more. So yeah, it just gave me a sore arm, poor night's sleep, but after that, I was all right. So hopefully the second jab doesn't have any surprises for me.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they asked me to which arm do you want it in, and I was like, I don't care, it doesn't matter. And then I
Yeah,
realized when I went to sleep, it's like, oh crap, I did it on the arm that I guess I sleep on. But
yeah,
I was surprised how easy it is. We set it up online. You get there and you wait, and that was it. It's a tiny little needle. Although it's crazy how much it hurts for that tiny needle. I guess it's just whatever happens inside where your arm is just taking the brunt of the force. But I guess you don't underestimate the size of that needle to create that soreness afterwards. But yeah.
yeah. And I think the actual jab itself, I mean, you barely even. I mean, 'cause it's such obviously a fine needle, you don't even feel
Right.
it. Pierce the skin. So it is. I mean, in a way, it's quite nice when you get some sort of effect because you know that something's clearly happening to my body. So I mean, if I didn't get any effects, I'd be like, did they even do it? Did they even like
Yeah.
push the magical juice in? Or but yeah, at least we're sort of on our way to some really good protection, and it's a sign, I suppose, that eventually we'll all, well, those of us that aren't stupid and happy to get the vaccine will be
Yeah.
safe.
I was wondering too. It was just a dumb thought, but they gave me a card, has a little stamp on it, and they're like, "Don't lose this. This ensures that you get your second one or whatever." But I was thinking, what if I just keep getting the first shot over and over again? Do I get stronger? Do I get more immune? Is that how vaccines work? But I guess it doesn't. I guess that's not the case.
No, well, apparently the longer between your jabs, the better, because it allows your body to sort of make do with the lesser sort of protection, and it
Oh,
allows it sort of to naturally build up some invulnerability, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, the second shot is that cherry on the top that will grant you the power of flight, which will be
yeah.
fun to play around with.
Can't wait, man. We'll be flying
Yeah,
around, soaring the 5G skies.
yeah,
Uh,
it'll be great.
Callum, you know what I did? I was super crunk excited for Kong versus Godzilla. I don't know if you were
Mhm.
excited or watched that at all, but I just watched it a couple of days ago, and man, that was so awesome. And I just want to watch that on repeat and not leave my house and not talk to anybody. Just watch that movie.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the trailers. It looks fun. I don't really watch much, to be fair. I have a really bad like thing where I just struggle to start something. I
Mm,
always either end up just I love Always Sunny in Philadelphia, so I just always end up rewatching that because it's
it's a
just the best
classic.
thing. So I've been watching some of that. I've actually, and I don't know whether you're about to rip into me for this, but something my sister got me into is RuPaul's Drag Race, which I just started on Netflix, and it's
Oh,
just great TV. And yeah, I've been sort of enjoying some of that. It's not something I would have gone out. It's yeah, it's yeah, pretty addictive to watch.
I've heard that's a good show. Yeah, I think they have like a bunch of seasons at this point, but yeah, no, I've heard it's a good show, and RuPaul's, he's awesome. He's been around for so
Yeah.
long, and yeah, I need to watch it. What are you watching it on? Are you just like streaming it?
Yeah, so the American show, which is the one that's been around for sort of about 10 years or so now, is on Netflix. And so I've started. That's got like all the series on it. So I've started series 1 on there. And it's very like two, late 2010s or coming towards 2010s kind of reality TV. So that's quite fun. And then there's the UK one, which recently started. I think it's on its second series now, and that's on something called BBC iPlayer, which is basically our BBC on demand thing. So yeah, it's really good fun. I really love it. It's really interesting as well because the only real thing I knew about drag and drag queens was a movie called Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which is an amazing film, and I recommend. But it's quite interesting to see it and see how talented these people are, because I didn't realize that a lot of the talent is not only the way they perform and act, but also create their makeup and the clothes they sort of create themselves. And it's really interesting. And it's always good when you sort of see people who are very passionate and talented about things, and just because of the kind of people they tend to be, it's very good TV. It's good drama, and it's a lot of
Dramatic, yeah, for
cattiness
sure.
and all of that. So it's really great. I really enjoying watching that.
That reminds me of, I need to watch a movie you just mentioned, but there's another one about drag queens. It's called Tu Wong Fu. Thanks for Everything. Julie Newmar, I think, is a fool. It's a super long name, but it was made in like the 90s ish, maybe like mid 90s. But it's oh god, it's a bunch of people. John Leguizamo, um, the guy from Ghost, Patrick Swayze, and Wesley Snipes, and they get stuck in this like super podunk like small town, and they're kind of like, it's almost like Footloose. So they have to like change the town because they're very old school, but they come in and like fix everybody's problems, and it's hilarious. Still holds up. It's really good. I just watched that like a month ago and totally forgot about it. And that one, I highly recommend that too.
Yeah, I mean, it did kind of reignite the sort of love I had for like Priscilla. So yeah, I mean, there is definitely like a certain entertainment that these people are really good at doing. And so yeah, it's definitely a great show to get into, and I definitely would recommend it.
Nice. I'll have to check it out. Did you, in all your drama of moving and watching RuPaul, did you get a chance to play any games?
Yeah, so before I moved, I think more last week, I think I might have mentioned this actually, but I finished Cracking Time, Ratchet and
Right.
Clank, and I've actually been stuck on this sort of little mini game that you have to do for a trophy for quite some time, and it's very difficult. So I haven't gone back to that yet. But mostly this week I've been playing. I've gone back to Sekiro, which I'm now on the last boss, which is really great on PS5. It runs at a really nice 60 FPS at 4K. Looks
Ooh.
miles better than it did on PS4, and runs much better. And yeah, I've been really enjoying that actually. I was worried that I'd forgotten how to play it, but it seems like it's one of those games that you just don't forget, because I was able to get straight back into it and dispose of a few bosses, but not so easily on the last boss, unfortunately. But yeah, that's been good to sort of just jump into. But mostly I've been playing Persona 5 Strikers as well, which I'm very close to the end of, which I was playing just about an hour or so ago. Just sort of, yeah, nearly finished with that.
Gotcha. You mentioned the Sekiro 60 frame per second PS5 mode. They just unlocked or added this new feature for Ratchet and Clank on PS4 that adds that same 60 FPS mode. I need to jump into that, but I was watching footage online, and that game is already so gorgeous on PS4, and just seeing it at 60 on PS5 it's nuts. But yeah, that reminded me of that. I did play. Speaking of all these games getting these upgrades, so Tony Hawk the remaster also got an upgrade on PS5 where it's 60 frame per second mode. I want to say they mess with the 4K or they do something there, but also they have 120 frame per second mode, which I don't have a monitor to check that out, but yeah, I did play it on PS5 and it just plays even smoother. and looks gorgeous. And I'm just super excited for this entire. We're not getting these like these these games yet that are built from the ground up for PS5 and next gen, but we're getting a lot of life for these older games, and keep it coming. Like I'm fine with this for this, remainder of the year, just like supporting these old games and making them look, and play even better.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And yeah, like you said, a lot of these games are getting these patches, and but I think what one thing that sort of isn't really talked about that much is these PS5, like Sekiro, which is obviously multi-platform. I think if a game has an unlocked frame rate from the start, I think the PS5 will automatically push it to 60. Because I didn't see anything come out about Sekiro. I might have missed it, but
Mm.
I know that most of these games that are getting patched or awaiting patches are games, like Bloodborne, which is still waiting for one, Ratchet and Clank, which obviously was a PlayStation exclusive. So I think it's these games that have frame rate locks that require it to have a patch. Whereas I think Sekiro, a game already on PC and Xbox and everything, I think was probably just automatically up to 60 FPS. Because again, I didn't notice anything, so I could be wrong there. But
Mm.
yeah, there's quite a few games that I have noticed, big changes in, which have just sort of flying under the radar. Dynasty Warriors 9 is another one. Awful game, but had a really great next gen sort of spruce up. So yeah, it's nice. It's always nice to play, these games like Sekiro that have been around for a little while now, and revisiting them on the new hardware and seeing these sort of changes. It's really nice.
You know what I did see? I know Digital Foundry did a video on it, and I didn't pull it up, but it's Bloodborne. So there's so much demand for some kind of next gen support on that game. But I guess modders have taken to their own hands where I don't know how they do it, but they mod it to the point where they can run it on a PS5 with an unlocked frame rate. So it's like 60 frame per second. And then at 1080p, but then Digital Foundry took it to the next level and took that footage, and through some kind of AI stuff, they then upgraded to 4K, so it looks incredible. And there's parts where it's wonky because it's not meant to be. They're like digitally turning into 4K, but it's just so beautiful. And I'm so terrible about that game. I'll never be able to experience it. But I love that this community is just doing it on their own. And I don't know how they actually get it on a PS5 or PS4 for that matter. But you have to imagine at some point, Sony has to hear that demand, like for Bloodborne especially, to bring it to life on PS5. But I just was reminded of that. It looks really nuts.
Yeah, it's funny actually. I downloaded Bloodborne just before I re-downloaded Sekiro, because that's another game that I got very close to the end with and just abandoned. And yeah, I got to say it does look kind of rough. PlayStation 5. I was playing it on 4K monitor, and yeah, it was noticeably low frames, and you could tell the res wasn't really the nicest sort of 4K variant. And yeah, it could definitely do with some TLC, because like I said, I mean, it is a nice looking game in terms of its setting and its sort of vibe it has, but yeah, it is lacking that sort of next gen upgrade. And yeah, the demand's huge because it's such a beloved game. It is strange that it's taking this long to get anything out for that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're doing, but you have to imagine they hear it. So it would be a great, end to their next, to their next live stream revealing PS5 news for them to be like, and one more thing, and then we hear you nerds. All right, you could shut up now. Here's Bloodborne
Yeah,
on PS5, everything
yeah,
unlocked, looking beautiful. So they always have that up their
yeah,
sleeve. They just gotta do it. Maybe give it to Blue
yeah.
Point and have them upgrade it or whatever. I get it doesn't need like a full remaster though. It's just there's knobs I imagine in the engine. You just switch it to 60 frame mode and put on PS5. It's like just make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things that, from sort of our perspective, it does seem very simple. But I mean, you never know how busy they are, what other
Right.
things they have on, and their priorities and everything. But yeah, especially considering it's free on Plus for PS5 owners, it's kind of strange that that's only available for PS5 owners. Yet they're getting a game that isn't tuned for that console. So yeah, it's kind of, but I mean, the game still plays really well. It's still that great game that everybody came to love. So it's not the end of the world, but it would be a really, really nice thing to have.
For sure. For sure. Well, Cal, we can get into some of the news. Unless you've been playing anything else crazy. I really haven't spent a whole bunch of time playing games. lately. But besides Valheim, that's been taking up all my time. Any little bit I get, it's just going into Valheim. I freaking love that game so much.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm just Persona 5 Strikers the only other thing. But yeah, I don't have a huge amount to say about it that I haven't already. It's is what it is. It's an amazing game. I don't want to sell it short in that way, but yeah, I'm just sort of pushing through to the end, and hopefully I'll be done with that today.
So the Persona games, at least the last one you're playing, I mean, it's pretty long. Like you put what 500 hours or something crazy into it, 6 years. So
Yeah.
with Strikers, is it just a shorter experience?
Yeah, so I'm nearing the like 40-hour mark. So I want to say to do everything. So I'd get a platinum on it. I'd probably say it's going to be about 60 hours. I think 50, 60 hours. You could probably beat the game in 30, 35 hours if you were sort of trying to get through it quickly. So
Mm.
it's a lot shorter than Royal or the first Persona game, Persona 5 game, which average out at about 100 to 120 hours. But that's mostly because Strikers doesn't have that life sim aspect to it. You don't go through every day. It's a lot less restricted in time. It's more about going to these dungeons, getting through them, fighting the boss at the end, getting better gear and everything. I mean, there's still the aspect of talking to the characters who are your friends in it and doing little things for them and little sort of fun moments with that. But yeah, it's definitely a lot more streamlined. And yeah, just a lot more sort of not as stressful to play as the other ones, as the first game. But one thing is, it's definitely treated like a direct sequel. The
Mm.
story follows on. The enemies are completely follow on. The combat, although it is a bit more like the Warriors games, is still very reminiscent of the Persona 5 combat. It's you can 100% see it as they could have called it Persona 5 2, quite easily, and it would have been just as well received as it is. So it definitely doesn't feel like a spin-off, but it does feel a lot more streamlined, a lot sort of easier to get through.
Now I wonder. So with you'll have to remind me with Strikers, this was a PS4, PS3 game that was I want to say released in Japan first. Now this is like the the release for everyone else. And so with Golden, was that the last legitimate release? And so I wonder how long until like the next full blown entry in that Persona franchise. Like how long do we have until that?
Yes. So Persona 4 Golden Persona 4 was a PS2 game, and then Golden was the Vita like remake kind of thing. And then Persona 5 was a PS4 game, and then Royal was also a PS4 game, but that was like the definitive version of Persona 5. So Persona 5, especially Royal, is not that old at all, maybe a year or two. And then Strikers, yeah, which is basically a sequel to Persona 5 because they're self-contained games, story-wise. That came out last year in Japan and then this year everywhere else. So I mean, it is a very new game. So I mean, hopefully Persona 6 won't be too far off. But yeah, the gap between 4 and 5. I mean, there wasn't a Persona game in PS3, so that shows how big the gap between 4 and 5 was.
Oh.
So hopefully they don't take too long. But these games are massive and they're ridiculously polished and full of story and dialogue and amazing things. So you can definitely understand why these games take so long when you play them. Because I mean, the 100-hour, 120 hours runtime isn't to do with grinding at all. That's literally how long the game takes to beat. That's how long the story is. So they are big games with a lot of work put into them. But yeah, I'd love to see a new Persona or something like Strikers even, because they're just such amazing games and they're just so much fun. And I can't get enough of them.
Gotcha. Yeah, imagine if we're gonna wait a while. I can't really see this being PS5 exclusive. I mean, like I feel like it'd be cross-gen. That'd make the most sense. Where it'd still be on PS4 and PS5. You still have that huge install base on PS4, and assuming in the next 2 years more people get PS5s. Even then, I still feel like they support the PS4 for this next release. I don't think this style of gameplay like needs to push everything so much where it can only be done on PS5. I feel like still support PS4.
Yeah, I mean, I think Persona 5 was supposed to be a PS3 game, and then it got delayed so much that they ended up bringing it to just a PS4.
Mm.
So I don't know. I think Persona 6 probably, I think it would probably be, at least 3 years away. And that's, being very hopeful. So I can't imagine it would come out on PS4, but it would be nice because Strikers in particular is a little bit rough on the PS5 visually. I don't know if that's just because of Koei's sort of influence on it
Mm.
or not, but you can definitely tell it's not a PS5 native game. So hopefully that it would definitely be a true next gen game, the next Persona game. But again, that's very no one's even heard any rumors about the next Persona game or anything, so it could be a decade out.
Yeah, gotcha. They just have, scribbles on napkins right now for like the next concept.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, Cal, we can jump into some news here. We, on the conversation of, cross gen and stuff like that, we have some very bad info that's been taken over the news on PS3 and PS Vita support, as well as PSP. So, this was from last week. Sony is closing its PlayStation Store for PS3 in July and Vita in August. This is Tom Warren of TheVerge.com. We switch over here. Sony is officially closing its PlayStation Store for the PlayStation 3 on July 2nd, with the store shuttering for Vita devices on August 27th. The shutdowns mean you'll no longer be able to purchase digital copies of the games or DLC for the PS3 and Vita. Sony is also removing the remaining purchase functionality for its PlayStation Portable on July 2nd. Thankfully, you'll still be able to download and play previously purchased games, videos, and media content. The only thing that's changing, at least for now, is that you won't be able to purchase PS3, Vita, or PSP digital games and videos. In-game purchases will also stop after the stores are closed. You'll also still be able to purchase cross-buy content following the closures, allowing you to access the PS3 and PS Vita, PSP versions of games that come with cross-buy support. So this was a huge bummer, and maybe it was inevitable, but we can talk about this juxtaposed with how Xbox is treating, backwards compatibility and their legacy of games. But how do you feel about them announcing this after it was leaked for a little bit?
Yeah, it's terrible at the moment. Hopefully, there'll be some kind of uh, something that they're going to do to try and remedy this in some way, or and make these games still available just through the newer hardware. But I think with the PlayStation 3, I'm not too bothered because to be honest, I wasn't even sure if the PlayStation 3 store was still around,
Mm.
or at least I wasn't sure if they still applied like sales. I wasn't sure if there were still full price games on there or whatever. And I think with the PS3, except digital games, which is where it's definitely going to suck for the people who are looking to buy a PS3 exclusive digital game. Um, yeah, that's not good. But I think as somebody who's recently bought another PS3, I straight away was like, well, I'll just go on eBay and buy the games I want for it because it'll be so much cheaper than using the PlayStation 3 store. Because I mean, I already thought there wouldn't be any sales or anything like that. And PlayStation 3 games, it's not like they're rare. You go on eBay, you can get pretty much any PS3 game you want for like £5 or whatever. So I'm not too worried about the PS3, and hopefully they'll start to bring more of these games to PlayStation Now too. But I think the Vita is just unforgivable, really, because Vita hard disk games, or the little cartridges, are already very rare. In fact, only a few weeks ago, I was looking for the Ratchet and Clank HD trilogy on Vita, and you can't get that for less than like £50-60 on eBay. So to be limited to have to buy these already expensive and rare games for the Vita, I think that's a real bummer. And also, yeah, there's lots of people still making games for the Vita, which I've heard that they didn't even get notice about this. And I think one studio even had to cancel their game because of it. So it's really bad. It's not, doesn't seem like they communicated it in any way, and they've just done it as like a real throwaway decision, which is a real shame and comes across as really arrogant and just poor for consumers. So hopefully, if we're going to be optimistic, they'll be resolving this in some way where we'd be able to access these games on the PS4 or PS5, which I think would be actually better than what it was like. But yeah, at this moment in time, it's really awful, and especially with how good Xbox is with Xbox Game Pass and all of its legacy games and its backwards compatibility. It's just really bad optics and a really poor decision.
Yeah, so I was racking my brain trying to figure out, and it's information I guess we'll never receive, but how much does it really cost to keep these servers, these programs, the marketplace up? Is it really that much of a hindrance for Sony to keep this thing going? And is it matter of it's just down to dollars and cents where it's like it's too expensive and not enough of a demand? Or is it really a combination of that and we want to kind of push people towards really PS5, but like PS4 in general too, and they just kind of want to stop supporting this because they want to usher consumers into that next thing they want them to buy, So is it? I wonder, like, what is the big push for this to happen? Because they don't at the moment have the support that Xbox has for their legacy games. So by dropping this, it just gives that baton, that advantage to Xbox. So it's like when you look forward, does it really help them by shutting this down? I can't imagine it's that expensive to keep it going, but maybe it is. That's the thing. I wish I knew like how much does it really come down to keep these servers up, to keep this support up there. But yeah, I'm wondering behind
Yeah,
the scenes, like what's deciding that? What's a deciding factor?
yeah, I think, and again, not including the Vita in this because I think that is just objectively an awful move. Because even if they do end up bringing a legacy store out or anything like that, you're still not going to be able to get those games on the Vita unless you buy them on your PlayStation and then it puts it into your Vita download list. I don't know.
Mm,
Um, but either way, even if they do have some solution which is going to mean that this is actually a good thing and it's going to be more accessible for everybody, um, that surely you would announce that first and
right.
then say you're going to get rid of the stores. So no matter what, even if they do end up doing something really great off the back of this, it's still stupid because they should have said that first. So yeah, it's just really bad. I mean, it makes you think of like PS3 days, or even when the Xbox One was first announced. Just these really stupid, blind moves.
Yep.
And yeah, the saying about how much it costs to keep your servers running. I think that's a fair point, and I think that probably, especially for the PS3, it makes sense to close these storefronts, but they can't announce that without giving us a solution first because it's just reckless and not consumer friendly at all. So I mean, in a month or two, hopefully we'll know a bit more about how they're going to remedy this. But yeah, at the moment, it's looking quite shocking and poor from PlayStation.
Yeah, you mentioned you're right. It's really bad optics, and to announce this without a plan at the same time, it also makes me think that there isn't a plan, and they're just going to shut this down and push everyone to PS4 to PS5, and maybe down the line, maybe this summer, there is some kind of program where you can have access to all these games, or they put them all or a lot of them on PS Now, and that's their go to. That's their solution. But it's just right now, and it's an interesting start to this gen because Xbox has been setting themselves up doing all these consumer friendly moves with backwards compatibility and all this support when in Game Pass is so awesome, and Sony really isn't playing that game. And at a certain point, it's going to catch up with them, and it's I feel like it's starting to. So you mentioned that PS3 era. This gives me those same vibes where they just don't realize or don't take it seriously, but there is ground that they're losing by doing this kind of stuff, by not supporting these games. And I wonder at the end of the day, is there that huge of a demand for these marketplaces to still be up? But I think there is, especially with the Vita. I mean, you mentioned correctly where there's games that have now, developers rather, that have now had to cancel games or at least stop support for the Vita version. I know last year we talked to this dev who's working on the game Laser, and it's this really dope 2D platformer. And there was Vita support, and that was part of the Kickstarter. But now that Vita support has to be canceled because the only way to get it was through that digital store. Because I know the cartridges are now, they stopped production, what, a year ago, 2 years ago on those cartridges. Those are also hard to get. So now there's no digital support. So it's like you can't support it anymore. I think even um, no taxation is his handle I'm thinking of, but Colin Moriarty,
Oh, God,
they
yeah.
had their Abraxia, I want to say, or their next game, they had to, there's no support for Vita. They can't work on it, if I have that correct. So yeah, it sucks. And there was no communication with these devs who are still trying to. No one else is trying to support Vita. They're trying to support Vita. Sony has just given up on it, and now they made it impossible for them to keep supporting it. So it's just you want to get inside on these meetings and figure out like what are they doing, what are they thinking with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know whether, like we said, the most baffling thing is that, because I mean, it's such a terrible decision that you have to imagine they've got some solution in the pipeline. You have to imagine that they do. So, I mean, whether or not because I know that it started off as like a leak, so whether or not it leaked earlier than they wanted to say about it or whatever, it's just awful. Yeah, I mean, it's indefensible, and I think the Vita is definitely the worst thing about it. I don't think the PS3 storefront closing is that much of a problem, simply because you can still play your PlayStation Plus games, you still play all the games you've had, and yeah, PlayStation hard copies of games are extremely cheap and easy to come by. Whereas the Vita, I mean, most people I know that play Vita, and there's a lot of people that do still play the Vita. I mean, it's the only PlayStation handheld console, or the newest one. The PS3's 2 gens behind from its mainline console, so I think it's a little bit different in that respect. But yeah, it is a really awful move, and really disappointing for someone like me as well who loves the Vita. And like I said, it was only a couple of weeks ago that I was actually looking at buying a game on the store, and simply because the physical copies of it are so expensive, because they just have never produced that many of them. So it's a real stupid move. But hopefully, to be optimistic, we'll see some kind of shake up with PlayStation Now, which is what we've been hoping for anyway. And hopefully it will incorporate that somehow into it. But yeah, it's really sad and frustrating.
Yeah, it is. We'll move into another skip ahead to another article here that's maybe not as sad, but it's interesting. It's just shaping up this next generation for like an interesting battle with Xbox. So this is about MLB The Show. So this is MLB The Show, or Sony game MLB The Show, will be free with Game Pass on Xbox, full price on PS5 and PS4. This is Sammy Barker of PushSquare.com. In a year of bad optics for PlayStation, this may be the worst yet. A game developed by Sony, the upcoming MLB The Show 21, will be free at launch for Game Pass subscribers on both Xbox Series X and S and Xbox One, while it'll be sold full price for PlayStation 5 and PS4. It's worth noting that third-party titles do rotate in and out of Microsoft's subscription service, so members won't be able to download this title forever, although no timeline has been attached to its availability. MLB Not Sony is listed as the game's publisher on Xbox, so whether the league struck this deal as opposed to PlayStation is unclear. We'll contact Sony for more information on that. This is interesting, Callum. How do you feel about this is such a huge PlayStation property, and it was announced, quite a while ago that it was now going to be cross-platform, and now what a huge get for Game Pass, where it's going to be free there same day. So you have your PlayStation option or your Xbox option if you have both consoles, and it's free there with Game Pass. It's an incredible deal for them. So how do you feel about this going forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting, especially considering it was a PlayStation exclusive. It's the first time it's on Xbox, and it's free day one. But I actually don't really think it's as much of a big deal as people are making out. I mean, we know Xbox Game Pass is great. We know that they're getting free games at launch for all of their games, including the Bethesda games, and Elder Scrolls 6 will very likely be free at launch for them. And if it comes to PlayStation 5, in the end, they'll have to pay. People with PlayStation will have to pay full price for it anyway. So it's not any different to literally any other game, really. So I don't really. I understand, the narrative that it was exclusive to PlayStation. It no longer is. But yeah, I just don't really understand the sort of drama behind it, because I mean, we already know that Game Pass is amazing. And I just don't know why this is such a surprise for people. So yeah, I don't really see it as a huge thing, to be honest. I think it's like Final Fantasy VII Remake, that was free on PlayStation Plus. We've got Abe's Odyssey is going to be free at launch for PlayStation. I know MLB is obviously a much bigger property with a bigger fan base, but yeah, I just don't see the kind of, what does Sony have to do now because MLB The Show's free on Xbox Game Pass. I just don't see it as that kind of big deal personally. Again, I know that the reason this whole thing stirred up because MLB used to be exclusive to PlayStation, but I just think it was not obvious, but it shouldn't be a surprise. Game Pass is amazing, and this is just another example of a game being on it. I don't think it really means much optically. PlayStation, I think it's just another game that's going to cost full price on PlayStation and going to be free on Xbox Game Pass. There's lots of games like that, and there will continue to be.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, the internet is maybe not freaking out, but it's just a huge turn for this property, and it's a great look on Xbox. But you're right, where it's going to go back and forth. Where you're going to get some games that are going to be the opposite situation, where, like you said, they're going to be free or exclusive, on PlayStation for a while, on and then supported with PS Now or with their PS5, legacy version, where those games can be free there. I guess I wonder, now that this game is cross-platform and it looks like the MLB is actually publishing it, I wonder the deals behind the scenes, if Sony knew that this was going to be sought out by the MLB to get it free on Game Pass, or at this point now these kind of deals are out of their control, where I imagine Sony wouldn't want this kind of thing to happen if they could control it, but now it seems like they can't. So I wonder behind the scenes if they had any idea that this was going to go down.
I mean, I'm sure they probably did, and again, it's what we're used to now. I mean, Xbox Game Pass is objectively the best deal in gaming at the moment. There's tons of games on there, and we know that games at launch are going to be free on the service. But I just think it's very reactionary for some people, because it's no different to the next Elder Scrolls being free on Xbox. It's no different to Outriders being free on Xbox, or anything like this. From now on, we're going to have games that are going to be on Xbox Game Pass at launch, and then if they're multi-platform, they're going to cost full price on PlayStation. That's how Xbox Game Pass works, and that's how it's been working. So yeah, I get it's annoying if you're an MLB The Show fan and you've been playing it on PlayStation, and now it's going to be free on a platform that maybe you don't have. Of course, that's frustrating, but that's just how Xbox Game Pass works. That's what's so great about it. I don't think Sony have done anything wrong or need to do anything to remedy this, because this is just Xbox proving how good their service is, and there's tons of other reasons why PlayStation's also a good place to play games as well. I just don't think it needs to be tit for tat so much. I think just the fact that this used to be a Sony exclusive is the reason why it's stirring so much, when if it wasn't, then nobody would obviously people talk about the fact it's free, and that's great, but nobody would be so expecting of Sony to do something in response. I just don't think it's quite that much of a problem personally, but I know that I might be in the minority there.
Well, as these deals, these not exclusives, but these kind of great gets for Game Pass start to stack up, do you think it becomes a problem then in the future? So I did pull up from Jim Ryan, the president and CEO of Sony SIE. He mentioned in an article that he doesn't see Game Pass as sustainable. Do you think this kind of bites them in the end, Xbox adding all these different games that are essentially way cheaper than buying it full retail, and Sony should just keep pushing forward? Or should there be some kind of reaction from Sony in the future to try and have some kind of way to combat Game Pass, or at least compete with it?
Yeah, I mean, I can only go by what I play on, and how I sort of feel about the platforms myself. And for me, I have so many reasons to play my PlayStation, and I also love Xbox Game Pass as well, because I get so many great games on it. But it's not like, oh, Xbox Game Pass has got all these games, I'm never going to play my PlayStation again. I just don't feel like it's really pulling away that much. I mean, the service is amazing. It's by far the best service probably in games at the moment. PlayStation Now doesn't compare to it in any way, but I still really love PlayStation Now, because I've been playing the Ratchet and Clank games on it. I've been playing Persona 5 Strikers and, enjoying lots of games on my PlayStation. And then I've also been enjoying, games like Crusader Kings 3 and State of Decay 2. And I'm really looking forward to the future games on Game Pass. And I could be playing all these Bethesda games for no charge at all. I just don't feel like at this moment in time, I don't feel like PlayStation are lacking enough in things to make me, forget about it, if that makes sense. I think both again have their pros and cons, or probably no cons actually. I think they both just have their pros, and I just don't feel like PlayStation are in a position where they have to necessarily match Xbox Game Pass, because they're both very unique. They both have their own style and their way of doing things, and I think that they work for both of them. I think PlayStation has some amazing games. PlayStation Plus has been giving us some great content recently. PlayStation Now is a great service, and Xbox Game Pass is probably the best service out there, but it doesn't mean PlayStation are massively behind and need to do something before it's too late, if that makes sense. But that's just from my perspective, and when I play games, I don't feel pulled away from my PlayStation because of how good Xbox Game Pass is, because they both have their own draws.
And we're back. Callum had some technical difficulties. Makes sense. It wouldn't be a normal show if we didn't have something burst into flames or stop working. So that's on par for what usually happens. Yeah. But yeah, so we were, before we got cut off, just kind of ending our thoughts on MLB The Show and just the future of this battle now with PS Now and with Game Pass. I guess just final thoughts on your kind of stances at this point. PlayStation doesn't need to have some kind of reaction; they can kind of just keep going forward with what they've been doing.
Yeah, I think they're both very different. That's clear. And again, I think Xbox Game Pass is definitely the best thing, the best service out there for getting games. But yeah, I think they both have their draws. I don't find myself never playing my PlayStation because of how good Xbox Game Pass is. I find that they both are clearly going in different directions. And yeah, I just don't feel like MLB The Show going to Xbox Game Pass on launch is at all surprising. Neither does it warrant a big response from Sony, because I'm in a position personally with when I play games where I feel like I'm getting great stuff from both sides. And I just have no real complaints with either, except the stores shut down, obviously. But in terms of what I'm playing, I love Xbox Game Pass and I love PlayStation and the games that they offer me too. So I just don't feel like it's that much of a divide right now. As games start coming out, big games like Elder Scrolls and all of that, that's when it might start to do that. But then by then we might have God of War Ragnarok and all these other games that PlayStation can offer. So I just don't think it has to be back and forth like people seem to want it to be. I think, again, both are going in different directions and both are giving us excellent games and services.
Yeah, it's interesting. People do want this kind of this battle. I mean, they are battling, they are competing with each other, but I think on the internet anyways, there's this feeling of that because of the last generation where PlayStation was just dropping, exclusive after exclusive, and Xbox was just kind of, they were building their stuff behind the scenes and getting all these acquisitions, and now we're seeing the fruits of that labor. We're seeing all these deals being made. So now we're actually seeing a competitive battle with these services. So I think that's why we're experiencing these reactions online of, okay, Sony has to do something now, which is a good thing, because last gen there wasn't any of that. It was just kind of Xbox was on the wayside and trying to figure things out, but now we're seeing them battle each other, and it's a good thing, because I would argue that the consumers are going to benefit from them actually competing and having to adjust and make better deals. So I'm excited
It's almost like Amazon and Netflix, right? They both are competing with each other in the streaming space, but nobody ever goes, "Oh, that new Amazon Lord of the Rings series, what are Netflix going to do in response?" Right. It's like they're both releasing quality content. Just enjoy them both, or if you can only enjoy one of them, then enjoy that one. They're both great. Xbox Game Pass is definitely better value for your money, but there's things on Xbox Game Pass that you can't play. I can't play Final Fantasy VII Remake on Xbox Game Pass. I can't play Persona 5 Strikers. I can't play all of these games I love playing on my PS5. And then there are games that I play on my Xbox Game Pass, like Crusader Kings 3. My mind's blanking now, but I've been playing some of that State of Decay 2 recently as well. And there's obviously so many more games that I haven't mentioned that I wouldn't be able to play on my PS5 or wouldn't be as accessible as they are on Xbox Game Pass. It's just, it's just bizarre. And I think using things like Amazon, Netflix, or Hulu or whatever as an example is a great sort of reality check to really realize what's actually happening here. And what's happening is we have two brands that have their own content, and both are fantastic, and that's why they are in the positions they're in. There's just no need to think there has to always be a reaction when something good happens on one side. That doesn't mean the other side has to react to something. They're both constantly going to bring out great content no matter what, and that's just how it's going to be, and that's how it has been forever. And yeah, I play both and enjoy playing games. That's what I like both of those systems for.
Well, you're crazy, Callum. You got to pick one, and you got to be diehard no matter what. That's what the internet tells me.
Yeah.
All right, Callum, we'll transition to our next one here. A little bit of news about Kojima and possibly teasing their next project they're working on. So we got this article from Robert Ramsey, Push Square. Kojima Productions' next game announcement coming quite soon. Legendary Kojima production artist Yoji Shinkawa may have just dropped a hint on when we can expect a new game announcement from the studio. In an interview with YouTube channel AI Hub or Al Hub, as reported by VGC, Shinkawa is asked about the developer's next project. He replies, "Well, yeah, I'm doing something for sure, and I could tell you probably that we can announce it quite soon. Of course, quite soon could mean anything, but it's common knowledge that Kojima Productions has been bolstering its workforce for quite some time following the release of Death Stranding in 2019. Hopefully, we will hear something more concrete in the relatively near future." Callum, do you have any hopes to hear from this soon? I think with Kojima, they tend to announce their stuff early, at least with Death Stranding and with MGS5. So do you think we'll see something soon for their next project?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we probably will. It's been a while since Death Stranding came out now. I mean, as you know, I haven't played the Metal Gear Solid games or Death Stranding, so I'm not, into Kojima like most are. So I think I think this shows how big Kojima is, because obviously they're working on something else. They're not just sitting around doing nothing. So the fact that that is news just shows how excited people are and how much people love these games. So I think that in itself is exciting and shows that there's obviously, as someone like me who's not really savvy with the games that Kojima makes, it makes me sort of excited to see what they're going to announce, just because of how hyped just the smallest interviews or announcements or a piece of information are.
Yeah, with especially with Death Stranding, that was teased pretty early. So I know he did his trek across the world finding the best engine and landed on Decima with Guerrilla Games, and then I want to say 3 to 6 months later at the Game Awards, already started showing the concept stuff for it, which became the game Death Stranding, and that was pretty early on. And then Death Stranding didn't come out till at least like 3-4 years after that. So they started teasing, and then they kept teasing every year, showing a bit more footage that made no sense. But they started teasing pretty early. So I feel like if they keep following that mantra, we'll see something from them soon. And I can't wait. I loved Death Stranding. I didn't like the ending, but it was a great game. I love MGS5, so I just can't wait for their next title. I want to see how weird it is. Hopefully they lean into the weirdness and just turn it up to 11 again, because I'm on board for how crazy these games are.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I always hear, is how just bad they are. I have a friend who absolutely adores MGS, and it's actually funny. I've been speaking to him recently because he's been playing Final Fantasy VII Remake through PlayStation Plus, which is his first ever Final Fantasy game. And he's been telling me that because he's finally playing Final Fantasy, I need to finally get through Metal Gear Solid. So
Yeah.
I mean, I've got them. I've got the first Metal Gear Solid as a PS1 classic on my Vita, and I've got the remaster of 2 and 3, is it, on Vita as well. Good thing I've got them now, because I wouldn't be able to buy them soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully I'll find some time in my backlog to start going through those. But yeah, it's always exciting, even as somebody who doesn't know much about his games, it's always exciting to know that there's going to be something new to come out, because it's always just a spectacle just to even just watch people talking about it and just having such passionate opinions about a game.
I think you could even skip. Well, those first Metal Gear Solid games are so classic and people love them. But for me, I skipped a lot of those and jumped into 5. That was like the first legitimate Metal Gear Solid game that I played, and I still did fine. There's a lot, I guess, you're not going to know about, but it still is explained to you in a way that you can not understand, because it's a lot to not understand. But you can
Yeah,
still,
yeah.
have fun and kind of gather stuff along the way. So I think you can jump into 5 and have no problem, especially the gameplay. The open world nature of it is super fun, and then Death Stranding takes it to a new level. I think Death Stranding gameplay turns some people off with like the mechanics, the dealing with your weight and momentum and stuff and balance, but I really had a blast playing it, and I was surprised how much I loved it. So I would say for sure try Death Stranding as soon as you can, because it was dope. And it's on PC now too, so you can have it all unlocked in the frames and the ray tracing and all that stuff, so you can try it there too.
Yeah, I think if I was to go straight into MGS5, I mean, as you know, I have that weird OCD problem where I can't not play all the others before it. But I
Sure.
think my friend would probably murder me if I did that, because he doesn't particularly like 5 story,
Mm.
and he doesn't really like the game that much, but he loves the first 4. So yeah, he would probably come and murder me if I did that. So just for my own safety,
Yeah,
I will probably play through them all.
that's safe. That is safe. All right, Cal, we'll move on to our next one here.
Yeah.
This was also from last week. We got Ghost of Tsushima movie announced with John Wick director at the helm. So this is from pushsquare.com. Robert Ramsey has the article. PlayStation is once again branching out on one of its properties to the big screen, as Deadline reports that Ghost of Tsushima film is happening. The best thing about this, though, Chad Stahelski, the director of the immensely successful and very entertaining John Wick movie series, is attached to direct. Given how action-packed Ghost of Tsushima is as a game, we're expecting a potential martial arts masterpiece from Stahelski. So, Callum, this was announced last week. How do you feel about a Ghost of Tsushima movie?
I think it's quite a strange choice, to be honest. I think it'd be great. I mean, obviously the John Wick films are amazing, and samurais are really cool, and so I'm sure it'll be great. But I think Ghost of Tsushima was so good because it was a game. It wasn't as much as I
Mm.
think we've spoken about this before. I think the performances are amazing, particularly for Jin Sakai and forget the name of the villain in it, but they were both really, really well sort of acted. But I don't think the story was at all the strength of Ghost of Tsushima. It was very generic, and especially with how the side quest worked and everything like that, it wasn't particularly anything new. It was, a fairly generic story and narrative, in my view. Again, nothing against. I absolutely love Ghost of Tsushima. I just didn't think it was anything special in that sort of department. So I'm not too sure why it's been chose as a film, because mostly because the thing that Ghost did so well was its sort of game direction and how it got you from A to B and told you where to go and things like that. So I mean, I'll be interested in seeing it, just because it's a cool setting and samurais are great, and the action will be great, I'm sure. But yeah, I just think it's quite a
I lost you there for a second, Callum. You might be jumping back on. Well, you froze for a good amount. Okay, are you
Yeah,
back?
sorry, yeah. Sorry, my Ethernet cable slipped out. But I just think, I think samurais are great and samurai movies will be cool. But I just think Ghost of Tsushima, they don't need to use Ghost of Tsushima to make a film, because that wasn't the full necessarily. I don't think. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it either way. It'll be cool.
Yeah, I hear you on that, because same feelings on the story maybe not being the strong side of what made Tsushima so special. So yeah, if they can lean into the action set pieces and the world, just making it look as beautiful as it did in the game, and you could have a fun, cool experience. Maybe this overall just helps drum up more support for, or more fans for, a sequel. Although I think the Tsushima originally sold quite a bit, so I don't think they need any help, you know, getting fans on board. So, but yeah, it's interesting. I know Sony announced along with The Last of Us, and I think even before that TV show announcement, they're going to start to lean into some of these properties having a TV show, movie presence. So this is them going full on board. And then I wonder as well, if not Tsushima, what's another property that would work well for turning into a show or a movie? Their biggest one, as well as like God of War, but maybe that's a huge budget. You would need to pull something like that off, and this maybe you wouldn't need as high of a budget. But what's another property you can imagine them turning into a movie/show?
I think Horizon would be cool, and Days Gone would
Ooh,
probably work well. I think for a game to be turned to a film, it has to be a really unique concept. Like whether that, I mean, not necessarily a unique concept, but either a unique concept or something that was such an amazing narrative experience that people who don't play games need to see it as well. And I think Last of Us and Uncharted fall into that category where they don't need movies, but they're such good stories that people who don't play games should experience them. But then you've got things like God of War and Horizon, which are just, and maybe perhaps Days Gone as well, which are just such unique settings and story ideas and worlds and sort of concepts that it'd just be cool to see that on the big screen. And I just don't think Ghost of Tsushima falls into either of those things. I wouldn't say, oh my God, you're a fan of samurai films, you have to see the story of Ghost of Tsushima or play this game because of its story. And I also don't think that it's it's obviously not a massively unique setting because, we have lots of samurai related movies. I think maybe Tsushima itself is quite a unique setting that maybe should be explored more because it's the island between, Korea and Japan, which has seen a lot of stuff in the history just because of where it is geographically. But I just think to make a Ghost of Tsushima licensed movie just doesn't really tick the box on sort of the point in making a movie out of it, in my opinion. But again, I'm sure it'll be great, and it doesn't really matter. They don't need a reason to do it. If they've got
right.
a cool idea for it, that's all they need, I suppose.
Maybe a Resistance TV show movie. That's how we get that back.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather the games again, which I won't be able to buy soon on the
Yeah.
digital store. But yeah, that'd be cool. Actually, I think Resistance it would be a great movie, but it seems like they've just abandoned it. Do you know what would make a good movie? Actually, those Spider-Man games are pretty good. I wonder if they could make a movie about
Yeah. I don't know if they've made already 20,000 of them, but
that.
yeah, with different Spider-Man every time. But that could be cool too. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
guess you have the Uncharted movie coming out soon, so it's like they're working on these properties and getting them out
yeah,
and to the big screen. So yeah, I'm drawing a blank. I think you mentioned some of the biggest ones, and they already have like Ratchet and Clank already has its own animated movie. So yeah, they'll just keep doing it, and we'll see. But I'll definitely
yeah,
watch this because I'm sure it's gonna be dope. But you're right. Do we
yeah.
necessarily need it? The fun part is playing, especially this game. It's playing the game
Mm.
itself. So. But it could be cool. Hour and a half of samurais just kicking ass and looking beautiful.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, like I said, I am sure I'll enjoy it. But yeah, I just think there's other PlayStation games that could have done with this treatment rather than Ghost of Tsushima.
Sure. Yep. I hear you. All right, Cam, we'll go into our last one here. PlayStation patents the ability to add trophies to older emulated games. This is Jordan Alleman of IGN. Sony has patented the ability to add trophies to older emulated games, potentially allowing the rewards to be added to titles that predate the trophy system. The patent was published on March 18th and spotted by Bartman013, so take that with a grain of salt, on the Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit. The patent's description talks about how the technology will allow Sony to award trophies in previously released or sold video games without modifying the original game. Essentially, this can allow for older titles to be retrofitted with trophies so players can earn them in games that predate the feature, which was introduced with the PS3. Cam, this is right up your alley. You love your trophies. So, how do you feel about them just shoehorning it into all these older titles that never got it?
Yeah, I mean, more trophies is great. But I think this has to be related to the stores shutting down because
Mm,
for them to, I understand they don't need to if they don't need to modify the game. Obviously, they need to add trophies in via like some sort of platform that can, you know, recognize when these trophies should pop and things like that. So whether or not they're updating PlayStation Now to add a bunch of older emulated games and that never have been on a generation of console where there's been trophies. then hopefully this is related to the stores closing. But again, we already spoke about how if this is the case, they should have made that clear before
Yep.
announcing they were doing this. But yeah, I mean, I love trophies, and so to be able to get trophies on games that from my past or games that I missed out on, that would be a massive pull for me to revisit some of these games.
Yeah, and maybe this was part of this grand announcement that they're gonna, couple together with, yeah, we're shutting everything down, but we have trophy support and we have this new emulation that's going into PS Now or something. All these titles are gonna transfer over there, and maybe their hand was pushed because of that article being, or the story itself kind of leaking and the information getting out. But I also kind of think that's not the case. Just going by PlayStation, it seems like they don't have a plan in place. I really hope they do, but I'm hoping this is tied to that. But maybe this was all supposed to be part of this original reveal, and we'll get that soon. But either
Yeah.
way, if they can start to add this to older games that predate the PS3, that could be really cool. Give another incentive to jump back and play these. I know on PS Now there already are games that are PS2, PS1 era there, if I'm not mistaken. So they just don't have trophy support. So this would, at the very least, go into their PS Now and then add those trophies if this is legitimate.
So I think the PlayStation Now PS2 games are all available on PS4 through the PlayStation Store to buy without PlayStation Now being there. And I think they do all have trophies.
Okay.
So I'm hoping what this means is that they can basically, because it might be that they want to add more PS2 games, more PS3 games, but or I suppose PS2 would work more here. But obviously, the lack of trophies or the lack of there being a PlayStation 4 version of it maybe stops this from happening. So maybe it's to tie in with, because it says about emulation as well. So perhaps it is just a newer platform that maybe PlayStation Now will move to, or will be alongside PlayStation Now to allow more of these games to come. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, the PS2 games on PS Now are already PlayStation 4 sort of versions of them, if that makes sense, and they're available on the store with trophies.
Gotcha. Now you mentioned an interesting point. I do hope that if their plan for bringing these games, the support to some kind of subscription service, I hope it's not just another subscription service now. So you have PS Now, you have PS Classic, whatever they're going to call it, you have PS Plus. It's like just try and consolidate it to something that's a bit easier to understand. So I'm really hoping whatever their answer is not just another full blown service that you have to pay in addition to all this stuff that's already going on. But we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, I think PS Now is due a revamp, and again, I think PlayStation Now is a great service. I mean, you've been using it recently, and it works well, and there's a huge amount of games on there as well. But yeah, I think it definitely needs something just to make it a little bit more attractive, especially considering all the PS3 games have to be streamed. I think it just needs something to make it that just a bit more attractive for other people. Because I think once you've paid for a year or whatever, I think that's when you sort of realize how good it is, because you're kind of not forced to use it, but you're more likely to look through the library and actually give it a go.
Right.
So yeah, I think they need something to make it a bit more enticing to people. And there were murmurs about a PlayStation Now revamp when the PS5 first came out, with people who got the PlayStation 5 early saying that that they saw something to do with PlayStation Now that they're not allowed to talk about, and things like this. So hopefully there's something due, and hopefully it will fix this horrible decision to close these storefronts.
Yeah, we'll see. We're early days, but we'll see if they have some kind of plan for the summer, the springtime, to really, show here's why we did this, and this is coming, to fruition, and all the nerds and everybody can be at ease, and we'll get Bloodborne, we'll get Resistance, we'll get everything that we want, but we'll see if that happens.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Callum. Well, we can end our episode for the week here. Where can they find you online?
I'm on Twitter at Bear Monroe, if you would like to come and find me.
Well, we'll be at your house shortly then, Callum. Alrighty. And you can find us also on Twitter at PlasticCardPod. That's it for us this week. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.